You know, in the world we live in, peace can be an incredibly fragile thing. Today, we're going to walk through a fictional crisis that unfolds with breathtaking speed, a scenario that really shows you just how quickly our world can be pushed right to the edge.
Can you believe it? Just hours before the first explosions were even heard, diplomats were actually talking about progress. They were claiming a deal was close, that peace was finally on the horizon.
But then, in the pre-dawn hours, the sky just began to burn.
In our story, it doesn't begin on some remote battlefield. No, it begins in a global hub of commerce and travel, a place where, all of a sudden, confusion and fear completely took over. This is how one person on the ground described the scene in Dubai. What started as just a normal morning devolved into pure panic. There was no information, nothing, just the sound of explosions and the sight of smoke.
So the first reports that started trickling out of Dubai, they painted this picture of a really coordinated attack. You had explosions rocking the city center, air defense systems lighting up the sky near the Burj Khalifa, and the world's busiest international airport forced to shut down completely. It left thousands of people stranded right in the middle of all this chaos. And as the chaos was spreading, the why behind it all started to become chillingly clear. This wasn't some random act of terror. Oh no. This was the start of a massive military campaign.
Sources began putting a name to it, Operation Epic Fury. And what was it? Well, reports described a full-scale assault on Iran, allegedly led by the United States and Israel, and their stated goal was to completely dismantle Iran's missile industry. The speed of this escalation, it was just staggering. Think about it. At 1 a.m., the attack reportedly begins. Just 2.5 hours later, at 3:30, a strike hits the Supreme Leader's compound. And by 5 a.m., the unthinkable was being broadcast to the entire world.
Iranian state television itself confirmed the news. The Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, was dead. And not just him. His daughter, his son-in-law, his granddaughter, all gone. Reports also confirmed that a whole bunch of Iran's top military commanders were killed in another strike that hit a Defense Council meeting. So, in just a matter of hours, the entire leadership structure of the nation had been, well, decapitated.
Now, a strike of this magnitude was never going to be contained. The response was immediate, and the conflict just grew and grew, from a regional clash into a full-blown global crisis. Iran's retaliation, which they called Operation True Promise 4, was swift and it was widespread. Missiles were launched not just at Israel, but also at neighboring Gulf states, hitting civilian areas, airports. Iran claimed it had attacked 27 U.S. military bases, including a direct hit on the Navy's 5th Fleet headquarters in Bahrain.
And the strategic implications of this were immediate and catastrophic. All of this fighting was now centered around the most critical choke point for global energy on the planet, the Strait of Hormuz.
So why does this one spot matter so much? Well, let's take a major economy like India. More than half, 50% of its entire crude oil supply has to pass through this one narrow waterway. And with reports that Iranian forces were moving to close the strait, well, the world's energy supply was suddenly in serious jeopardy.
Experts, they really didn't mince words. They call the potential closure of the strait India's nightmare scenario. And the ripple effects would be immediate. Fuel prices soaring, shipping costs going through the roof, and crippling inflation. All of it threatening to destabilize economies thousands of miles away. But look, behind all the strategic maps and the economic forecasts, there is always a human cost. Beyond the geopolitics, millions of lives were now just hanging in the balance. We're talking about millions of civilians who literally found themselves living in a war zone overnight. And this includes a massive population of expats, with over 10 million Indian nationals alone living and working in those Gulf countries. These are ordinary people with jobs and families who were suddenly caught right in the line of fire.
And then, reports started to emerge from inside Iran that were just heartbreaking. This number, 100. That's the estimated number of children killed when a bomb struck a girls' primary school in the city of Minab during school hours.
And in the face of that tragedy, this was the official justification posted on social media. A very stark statement, especially when you remember that the initial large-scale attack was reportedly launched by the US and Israel.
So to really understand how we got to this point, you have to look back. A conflict like this, it doesn't just come out of a vacuum. It has echoes of history, and it raises some really profound questions about the whole nature of intervention.
And here's the crucial point. Just months earlier, Iran was already facing internal turmoil.
A collapsing economy, massive protests. And this was followed by a significant U.S. military buildup in the region. And yet, in this moment of just stunning irony, one day, one single day, before the bombs fell, Oman's foreign minister said publicly that a peace deal between the U.S. and Iran was within reach.
You know, the justification for this kind of intervention often follows a pretty familiar script. The promise is always peace, freedom, democracy for the people. But if we look at the historical reality of similar interventions, say in Iraq after Saddam Hussein, or Libya after Gaddafi, the result is often the complete opposite. Long-term instability, dangerous power vacuums, and the rise of new, sometimes even more dangerous threats.
Which leaves us with the fundamental question at the very heart of this crisis. When a foreign power intervenes to take out a dictator, does it truly bring about a stable, lasting peace? Or does it just shatter an old order, planting the seeds of chaos from which the next, and perhaps even deadlier conflict will grow?